Right, now we've got our sprite sorted, what we need to look at now is controlling the character. So to start with, I'm just going to make a new scene. I don't really need to save changes to the default. So I've got an untitled scene. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save the scene to start with, just in my scenes folder, as I'm going to go with just level. Because as we know with these kind of games, there's only really one level. There's no different levels in there. You have a start menu, then straight into your level. So that's what I'm going to start with. So if we go into our sprites folder, now we've got these cut up. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to add one of these into my scene. I'm going to go with the character wing up. And there's a couple of things that we need to add into the right hand side to this. So to start with, we're going to add in for me it's going to be a circle collider, but it might be better for you to put a box collider 2D or anything else really, a polygon collider 2D, whatever fits. But because mine's a circular sprite, I'm going to start with a circular collider. So if I zoom in on the scene view, you can see that I've got this green line all the way around. That's just what's colliding. The other thing we need to add is called a Rigidbody 2D. Obviously this is a Rigidbody 2D as opposed to a Rigidbody, purely because it's a 2D game. I know it seems obvious, but I thought I'd point it out. So this is kind of what's going to be controlling everything. The Rigidbody will put gravity in there. As you can see, we've got like the gravity scale and stuff, so that'll add that in there. So by default it'll fall, and then the collider, that's to test to see if there's any collisions. I'll just show you really quickly. If I click play, it'll just fall off the bottom of the screen because the gravity is there. Obviously there's no input to bring it up the screen or anything like that. So that's that. What we'll do now is we will go into our character. We add another component, but this component's going to be a new script. So I might call this bird controller, because my character's like some sort of funky bird. So create and add that. If we double click it, we'll open it up in MonoDevelop when it loads. There we go. So this is what we've got. What I'll do, just to be neat and tidy, drag this into my scripts folder, and then it's all rather neat in there, which is kind of what we want. Just give MonoDevelop a minute to stop being a little bit daft. I think I moved it. I need to load it again. Right. Obviously, we're coming back to our good old friend scripting. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off. If you watch the UI videos, you'll remember that we put some public variables in there. We're going to start off with that. So the first variable we're going to put in, so public, because we need to be able to see this variable, we need to be able to assign it, we need to be able to change it. If it's private, you can only change it in the actual MonoDevelop, but we want to be able to change it within Unity if we need to. So public Rigidbody 2D. It's the one with the capital letter. As you can see, the lowercase is not there. So Rigidbody 2D, and I'm just going to call this rigid, just so it's a little bit easier. I don't have to keep writing Rigidbody 2D. And also, if I had more than one, I doubt that I would have, but you need to be able to name them separately. Next, we'll put a public float, and obviously a float is a number that has a decimal, whereas an integer doesn't have a decimal. So this is going to be assigned to our speed. Obviously, speed should always be a float variable because it's not just 1, 2, 3. If you think about it, there would be decimal places within there. SPD, just shortened version of speed, equals, I'm going to try 5. So F, because it's float. So this is what we're going to start with. So in the void start, what we want to do is we want to put in here, right, what is the rigid body? Where is the rigid body? I could, if I wanted to, I could go and assign this, but the easier way of doing it is to reference the rigid equals get component, because the component's attached to the game object, we can actually find it. Rigidbody 2D, and then we need to open a bracket, close a bracket, and then close the line with a semicolon. So we've got that so far. We've referenced the rigid body. Now what we need to do is we need to make that actually do something. So I just like to add a couple of lines in here just to make a bit of space. We need to add an if statement now. So if, open bracket, input, So obviously this is referencing some form of input into the game. Get button down. So every time we click or we press a button down, we want it to go a little bit higher. In Unity, all the buttons are referenced in different ways. So for instance, in this one, the left mouse click is down as fire 1. Make sure to get your capitalizations right, because it's not something you can change apart from going into the input menu, and we're not doing that just yet. Close the bracket, and obviously close the second bracket because it's there. Open up your, oh, not them ones, your curly braces. So we need to put our line in here. We're just putting the one line in there. So what happens now is if we click, we want rigid, which is our rigid body, dot velocity equals new vector 2. Remember, it's 2D, so it'll be a vector 2 as opposed to a vector 3. Open bracket 0. We don't want to do left or right, we want to do up and down. And then instead of putting a number in there, we'll reference this float up here, the SPD. So speed, close the bracket, semicolon, save all of that. Now if we go back into here, just double check that it's on there. The rigid body isn't assigned yet, but it will be assigned as soon as we click play. If we click play, and then we click, we can see that we are now controlling our character going up and down, and it's got a constant drop because of our rigid body. So yeah, spot on there. We're starting to get a character controller together. What we'll now reference is we'll reference a couple of different things, and we'll potentially look into the animation. But yeah, that's all looking good. Thanks a lot.